Reparations Commission. As the City of Asheville, North Carolina, I'd like to call you to order and to take the roll.
Good day, everyone. Good evening. I hope your week got off to a great start. All right, we are about to take the roll. Dwayne Barton,
Present.
Norma Baines, Renata Conyers, Christopher Gordon,
Here.
Roy Harris,
Here.
Joyce Harrison,
He's not here.
Shonda Jackson, Kimberly Jones, Dewana Little, Dwayne McAfee,
Here.
Bobette Mays,
Present.
Glenda McDowell, Tamara Miller, Dwight Mullen, Mildred Nance Carson, Thomas Priesta, Jesse Ray, Dwayne Richardson,
Here.
Eric Robinson, Renita Waters,
Present.
Cece Weston,
Here.
D. Williams,
Here.
MZ Yehuda,
Present.
Keith Young.
Here.
That's our alternates. D. Burris,
Here.
Tiffany Debolo,
Here.
Shakiki Giles Bayton, Osandu McPeters.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. It's traditionally been my honor of giving remarks. Tonight's remarks are regarding a commissioner who is no longer with us, Mr. Oliphant. He chastised me regularly for calling him Mr. Oliphant. He insisted on Bernard. Passed away this week. The service will be at Mount Zion Baptist Church on Wednesday at noon. I intend to be there, and I hope that as many of you will be there, and not as commissioners, but as neighbors and friends, since he was here for the duration. He was here, he was one of our roots. And I wonder if it would be appropriate, and if you would join me in recognizing him with a moment of silence. He would say, that's not necessary, get on with business. That's what he would say. I did not know him as well as many of you. It was only through this process that I got to know Mr. Oliphant. And he regularly chastised me. And I appreciated his criticism. It was always given in the sense of brotherhood, and I was grateful for his presence. On with the agenda. We have a number of items to cover tonight. One of the additions I'd like to bring your attention to the sheets you have in front of you. There are 4 objectives for the meeting tonight. If you could read through them. I'd rather not read them to you, but if you could read them to them, we'll cover them at the end to see if we actually achieve them. But in addition, we have minutes from the 10/16 meeting, and to approve or to correct and amend. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Is there a second? Please.
Can you say your name? So,
Okay.
Bobette
Mays, I make a motion that the minutes.
just up front, a part of the process tonight is so that we can take accurate meeting minutes.
Vice Chair, I'm sorry. There were some questions in the minutes that needed to be answered. So there was a couple of motions. And I didn't know who seconded those. I could not from the recording determine who seconded some of the motions, and they're highlighted in yellow.
All right, yeah.
So I saw those, and I wasn't real sure how, in terms of process, we would address that. There were a number of questions on the finding on second sit again.
We can't approve the minutes
Yeah.
until we check.
So we're looking at pages 1, 3, and 10.
Did you all see that, page 1, page 3, and 10?
And they're highlighted in yellow.
But this is the reason why we are going, before we speak, we're going to say our names, and so that we can identify who is saying what, especially when, it's most important when we're doing minutes. So.
It's the second, who seconded Commissioner Barton's motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting? Is that Harris?
I think, was it Mr. Harris?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, it was
Joyce.
Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
Joyce Harrison?
Yes.
Oh.
On page 3? Which page is that?
There's actually on page 1, there's another.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a motion regarding the agenda and discussion of changing the agenda. There was a motion, and again, we missed who seconded.
I
believe I did.
Yeah, I think it was.
I believe I did.
Dwayne Richardson.
Dwayne Richardson.
Thank you. I think the next is on page 3.
Yes.
There was a question regarding closing the commission meeting because we thought that the issues would be personal in nature and personnel, over personnel. We were told that we don't have personnel. But before then, there was a suggestion, from me, I guess, as your preference on whether or not we should go into closed session. I didn't get the name of the person who expressed preference to do that.
Was that Mr. Ray?
That was Mr. Gray.
Jesse Ray?
Yeah, Jesse.
I had a question, excuse me, my name is, now, all these questions here on page 2, are they regarding to 9:18 minutes on page 2 with the highlighted one?
16.
No, 10-16, our last meeting.
The last meeting.
Okay,
And okay, so next one on page 10.
No, there's several.
So I believe that Jesse Ray, where the second one apologized and stated that he was having a hard time hearing. Was that Mr. Ray who said that at the last meeting?
Yes, so Jesse Ray speaking now.
Yes, please.
So on that page, Commission member asked the chair if he could ask a question to Commissioner Young. That was me. Commission member apologized, stated he was having a hard time hearing. That was me. Commission member stated that normally organization personnel issues are handled differently. That was me.
Thank you, Mr. Ray.
Are there other corrections?
The chair.
Oh, it's the next one. The
Mr.
chair
Lewis.
asked me if he was.
And then another one.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of those. Is there more,
So there's, after the last one that Mr. Ray stated was his, so there's 2 more.
yeah, those 2 was Mr. Ray, it was because he was asking for the, suggested the closed session.
So we're
And responded, yes, that was Mr. Ray, that was a conversation between the
Thank
chair.
you.
and so.
And then page 10, the final.
Commission member Young made the motion to vote. Is that the,
Yeah, on the resolution.
on the resolution to extend the timeline? It was seconded by,
MZ. It was MZ. Didn't you second on the timeline?
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there other corrections, clarifications?
This is Tiffany Debolo. it's not really a question, it's just a comment that when we speak, if we could really project our voice, because when you're looking at it from the live stream, you can really barely hear. But what you can hear is the side conversations from these, so we want to also be mindful as we're talking amongst each other that it's not getting muffled into the microphone.
Thank you for that. If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move, Mr. Chairman, that we do approve the minutes as corrected and amended.
That's D. Williams. Is there a
D.
second
Williams,
to that
I'm
motion?
sorry. I thought everybody knew who I was, but I'm D. Williams.
Is there a second to that motion?
C.C. Weston, I second.
Thank you. Are you ready to vote? If so, would you voice vote by indicating your approval? Say yes.
Yes.
Opposition? Unanimous. Thank you. This is the media activities. I'm sorry, we almost skipped over the survey results. Yes.
Okay. If you all want to take a look, the survey results from the last meeting is included in your packet. If you would like to review that, you can.
Next item on the agenda is new project management plan and facilitation. Ms. Mills? Dr. Armstrong?
I'll leave. Is this working? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Brenda Mills, Director of Equity and Inclusion for the City of Asheville. We wanted to kind of go over what next steps will be with our project management and with, in terms of the Community Reparations Commission and the work that we've been doing since Christine has transitioned to another role. So you have in your packet this sheet, a one-pager. And I'll just go down the role, go through it. So essentially a project manager for this has been basically an extra me and an extra Noriel that we paid to do this. I don't know if you guys are aware, but the Equity and Inclusion Office for the city has 3 boards. You're one of 3. I handle 2 of them and the other, with this board and another one, another staff person handles the other one. So the project manager handles all the things that I would do normally for a board, and you know you're a pretty big board. You started with about 31 people. And then they also help with strategic oversight, making sure that we're managing their impact focus area, not just the facilitators, but the impact focus areas in general. So Christine Edwards has graciously agreed, and we are happy that she will be in project administration. You will not be moved again so that you can get your stipend. So she will take care of those. Make sure that you guys are getting paid on time with your stipends, as well as paying the facilitators who do a great job working with our impact focus area folks. The meeting facilitation is by the one and only Ms. Renisha Crawford from Trauma Informed Institute, LLC. She has graciously agreed to start facilitating your meetings. She's going to help with strategic oversight. Some other things she has planned for you. I'll let her talk a little bit more about those when we get to her section. But we are very happy to have Renisha on board. She also will be a part of our team meetings, so the debrief after this meeting. There's a city-county project team meeting that happens and a few other meetings. She will come in to facilitate meetings as needed. And so we're really appreciative of that. Meeting logistics. So all that paper in front of you and your nameplates and making sure the room's set up and you have food and you have childcare, all those things. That would be myself, Natalie Bailey, if you raise your hand, with budget and performance, will be helping to support that. I will be making an offer this week to the Equity and Inclusion Manager. That person will step in as well. And then, so we're just going to tag team and make sure that that gets done for you.
The minutes, Ms. Salah Manaya Merritt, who has also, you are aware of her, she's taken the minutes. They will not be 12 pages in the future. So you're going to have to speak up, make sure the recording can be heard, make sure we know who motioned in second. And so, but we needed to capture as much as we could for that last meeting because it's very detailed. The Impact Focus Area Administration will also be Salah Manaya Merritt. She has graciously agreed to work with our IFA facilitators. They have gone to meeting weekly just to make sure we capture everything. She also will be attending your IFA meetings as she's going to start doing those, as well as staff will be coming and the subject matter experts as well. The reparations report process, this is the exciting part. Your process ends with a report, with an evaluation and a report. So part of that team is Dr. Noriel Armstrong, with the county equity team, myself, Natalie Bailey with our city, Kate Cutshaw with Special Collections in Buncombe County. And then we will be reaching out to the commission for those who would like to volunteer. I know Dr. Mullen's going to be helping us with that, but we're going to reach out to those commissioners who would like to help support that. We're looking at coming to you with a framework in December so you kind of know what it's going to contain and get started with that. And then the Communications and Public Engagement team will continue to do the work that they're doing. We'll have a report on that in just a minute, but developing promotional materials for information sharing, project updates on social media, press releases and media pitches, media coverage, advertising. We advertise in the urban news, both the city and the county, radio segments, meeting promotions, project page updates. So that'll be our city and county communications and public engagement, which we affectionately call CAPE. So those teams will continue that. Do we have any questions? Do you have anything else that I might have overlooked? No. Okay. Do you have any questions? Hearing none, we're going to go back to our seats. What? Do you have a question? Oh. Okay.
Let's talk about that. Okay. So, hi everyone. Bernicia Crawford here. I'm glad to be back and honored to be back. Thank you, Brenda and team, for allowing me to come into this space. I'm not going to take up too much of your time talking today, but I just wanted to kind of explain what my facilitation style will be like for these meetings. I watched some of the previous meetings and I also read the feedback from your surveys. And so for every agenda item that we have, what I will do is call on each name. If you have a comment, if you have no comment, you just say no comment. This will also help with note taking. And if you do have a comment, you'll have about 1 to 2 minutes to share your comment, and then we will move on to the next person, okay? What this will do is allow everybody's voice to be heard in a respectful manner, and also keep the meeting going and keep us on track with our agenda, which was what the feedback was in the surveys that we received. The other thing I want to do is bring your attention to, in your packet right after the sheet that Brenda just reviewed, there's just this article. It's titled Forming, Storming, Norming, and Performing. And if you all can take a look at that, I'm not going to read through all of this, but you'll see that there's a graph. This was something that came from Bruce Tuckman from the Psychological Bulletin. And one thing that I kind of heard frequently throughout the meetings is like, we've never done this before. This is our first time. We're doing something really hard. We've never worked together in this large of a group. And when you get people like us who are passionate, who want to do right by, our people or by whatever it is that we are driven by, this is what happens when you get groups of people together. So the first thing is there's this phase of forming. And that's where we get together and we get excited. And, we're kind of nice to each other. We play nice, right? We're trying to figure stuff out. We're like, oh my gosh, we got millions of dollars. We got to figure out what's going to happen with these millions of dollars. Let's do this thing, y'all. That's forming. And then what happens when we start to work together is we start to say like, ooh, I don't like how they said that. Well, I disagree with that. I don't like that at all. You know what? No one heard what I said. And what that phase is called the storming phase. And we right now are in the storming phase. And it doesn't mean that we are not passionate, that we don't want to do right. It's just we don't necessarily fully understand how to work with each other, because the only time that we've spent with each other in this space altogether is during these Monday meetings every month, right? That's not enough time to build a relationship, to learn a person's character, learn how a person communicates, learn how to say something, and then also learn how to receive things from folks. So we're in the storming phase. My job as facilitator is to help us get to the norming phase. Norming phase is where we say, okay, I see, Miss D, I'm just picking on you because I like it. Miss D, she liked to talk. I'm understanding her. I now understand how to give her space, and then also she understands how to receive what I'm saying, right? Because we spent time together. So we are moving into the norming phase. When we move through the norming phase, we're no longer focused on each other and how each other are saying things and how each other are doing things. We're actually focused on the tasks that we've been given to accomplish, okay? And I will say this is normal. This storming phase that we're in is absolutely normal. Every single group that has gotten together that's never done anything before, there's been conflict. But it is possible to be able to navigate through conflict and deal with it in a healthy way. And my job is to make sure that we do that. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, I also want you to look at the page again that Miss Brenda shared this chart. I want y'all to see where my name is and where it is not. Okay, Miss Christine was doing a lot of work. Bernicia Crawford will not be doing that, okay? I don't have the capacity. I don't have the skill set either, okay? I think what she's done is an amazing job and God is here, but I cannot replace her. My job is here on Mondays and in any other meeting that I am present. I am here to facilitate and, most importantly, help uplift, support, and empower chair and vice chair. Does anybody have any questions about my role here in these meetings? Yes, Ms. Tiffany.
Tiffany, again. So your role is not to be on time or we need to move forward. Your role is not to push forward the agenda. It's just to facilitate the meeting and support the...
Facilitating the meeting will include that.
Okay.
So if I call on a name, if there's a topic to discuss, I'm going to say, Mr. I'm starting to my right every single time. Mr. NZ, comment, yes, no comment. If he has comment, I give him time, and then we move on to the next person.
Okay.
Make sense? Any questions there? Okay. The last thing that I've been asked to do is to also reach out to each one of you individually. One, I think that's important, when it comes to trust building. And when you are working in a group of people together, it's important to take a pulse. And so I'll be reaching out individually to each one of you just to have a 15, 20-minute conversation, just to check in, see how you feel things are going, see how you're feeling about this process. Some people may feel that harm has been done to them or done to others. We want to acknowledge that harm, right? We want to learn how to be able to work through that, right? Because hurt can take place in spaces like this, and we just want to make sure that we address that. And so we're not trying to just move through that, because that's what our ancestors did. We don't have to do that. So I will close my portion and then give it back to Dr. Mullins with something that I read. It's a devotional, and it says, conversations that give. It says, we laugh and we grieve. We offer encouragement and voice concerns. We agree and debate. We communicate to complete tasks and coordinate schedules. We make small talk and make plans. We contemplate life's mysteries together. Conversations are a part of life, and each interaction is as unique as the person that we're talking to. Full of grace, grace is a free and undeserved gift. So even if someone is difficult or disagrees with our opinions, we can still communicate with kindness and respect. Amen. Grace gives kindness without condition, and so can we. Okay. So I will leave you all with that. Thank you so much for my 7 minutes. I will give it back to Dr. Mullins, and we will move forward with the community engagement presentation.
Just before you move back,
Oh, sorry, yes.
Roy Harris, I have a question. On the Norman stage, is there a time limit for comments?
That graph that you're looking at is not necessarily for Robert's rules
Right.
of order, but it is something that we will implement here to try to help us get from norming to performing.
Well, I'm curious about the time limit and whether or not when someone gets the floor, they kick the floor.
Right.
Meaning, I will make sure that people stop at their 1 to 2 minute mark. Is that what you're really asking?
Yeah, the time limit, and also, because someone made a comment to me once that, oh, it seems like there's a couple of people that running this. And so make sure that everybody, the time limit, and then we also get to the point where we move on or give somebody else a chance.
Absolutely. And that will be my job to make sure that
Okay.
it happens. Yes, sir. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Yeah.
So Brenda Mills again from the City of Asheville, Office of Equity, and Dr. Noriel Armstrong. We're gonna kind of tag team on this presentation. We are not going to read over this. Your presentation is with your packet. You should have all that information if you want to take notes. And this is basically your timeline, which has not changed since I spoke to you about it in December, January timeframe. We are at the point of we're at the
Part of county, of developing, continuing to develop recommendations. And then from that point to your term next April, until we hear more about the extension. So, part of our community engagement, what we're going to talk to you about is what we have done and what we will continue to do and plans that we have for the future. So the city kicked this off by hosting the Information and Truth-Telling Series in June 3, 7, and 10 of 2021. Phase 1 of the 3 phases, Information and Truth-Telling was the first phase, formation of the Reparations Commission, which we did in April of 2022, and then we finalized it and presenting a report, which should be next April, May. We featured the speakers up on the slide, and then the audience also shared live experiences in the room and on recorded videos. For those of you who don't know, we have your web page, which is what all boards and commissions have, and then there's a project page. Everything that has been done on this project is in that project page. You can see all the videos, the truth-telling sessions, all of that stuff. So that link on your agenda for AVL reparations, you can find that there. Reoccurring community updates, IFA meetings in the community. All of these are held in recreation centers. One is held at the YWCA, which is Education IFA. We meet with the legacy neighborhoods. We do neighborhood meetings and next door, putting out information about your meetings. The Actual Buncombe Black Elders Group, the Village Roundtable, which is a meeting that the county and city work together to do outreach to the African American community by sharing information about city and county operations and updates. Faith leaders, community engagement markets, youth groups, emails to project subscribers. We have a little over 1,000 project subscribers, social posts, blogs, and radio shows. If you did not get a chance to listen to the radio shows for our impact focus area meetings, they were amazing. We're going to be doing more of those. So the summit came up October 7. We had 2 movie nights leading up to that. Black in Asheville, if you have not been able to see it, filmmaker Todd Gregg, who lives in Shiloh, by the way, is an Asheville native, made that, and it was amazing. He has a website that I can share with you. He will be having more showings. And then the big payback was a documentary on the Evanston, Illinois process. We had more than 250 attendees to those movie nights. We had food trucks with BIPOC business owners to the event, and it was co-hosted with UNCA's Africana Studies program. Dr. Thais Ruffin was part of our program team. The summit also had more than 200 attendees. We had George Fothery, a keynote speaker, talking about the return of the land to the family in California, and just talked about the process of how they got to that point. We had a Black and Brown owned business fair, so the whole concourse was full of either organizations or agencies or businesses who align with our impact focus areas. We had youth from My Daddy Taught Me That, helping to support getting people out of their cars and ushering. Community choir led by Stephen Blunt, co-hosted by, again, the Africana Studies program. And then post-summit survey, we have about 78 respondents to date. So we're going to show you the movie, right? It's about a couple of minutes. Let's make sure
The 2023 Community Reparations Summit provided an opportunity for the public to hear from the Community Reparations Commission, which began their work in March of 2022. The Commission shared their findings across the impact focus areas of criminal justice, economic development, education, housing, and health and wellness.
Now it's time to make amends. You want a definition of reparations? Make amends.
Yes!
They also heard feedback from the community, which will help chart the path moving forward. The event featured keynote speaker George Fothery, who helped return $20 million to the descendants of the owners of Bruce's Beach, a popular California waterfront property after it was wrongly taken from them in the 1920s.
So I think this community is focused on the right areas. When you talked about the 5 pillars of that the commission is focused on, those are the right 5 areas we need. And again, I'm going to use the term reparations, but you all understand that I'm using that kind of in this context, which is, the context of what we can do. What can we do to address the reasons, the reasons and the way things are, how they are today.
The afternoon featured 2 panel discussions that highlighted the work of the focus areas. The summit was hosted by the City of Asheville, Buncombe County Government, the UNC Asheville Department of Education, and the UNC Asheville Africana Studies Program. Thank you to all our wonderful partners for making this year's summit a success. To learn more and get involved, visit publicinput.com/AVL reparations.
Okay. And then we had some special community events. I want to highlight the Stumptown reunion that was had on the 21st, I believe, of October. It had over 100 attendees. For those of you who are new to this process, who may not know, Stumptown is a former African-American neighborhood that was drawn out of Montford in North Asheville. So it is no longer a neighborhood. It was not a neighborhood when I moved here 31 years ago. So we, Rashida McDaniels, Leonard Jones, his wife, they gathered all of those folks. Those folks are still living. It was an awesome event. There's going to be a study by Dr. Darren Waters about Stumptown, and then there's a website where you can go and see all the information. If you do not know how all of that process happened, how we got to Tempe Avery Montford Center, how there's an amphitheater there instead of the park that the people thought that they were getting, it's worth a read. So that information was great. We were part of the Juneteenth Grind Fest events. We do quarterly updates to our city council, county commissioners, and then we do monthly updates to the city council equity and engagement committee.
Good evening. So I'm Dr. Noria Armstrong, Chief Equity Human Rights Officer for Buncombe County, and I'm going to bring us on home. So for IFA promotion, the virtual meeting technology was made available. We have promotion through various social media. We have project page updates to our subscriber and stakeholder list. And as Brenda just shared, the 5-part miniseries on WRES had in-depth interviews with each IFA, and they were really awesome. And so total number, 125 YouTube views, 30 plus listens on our inclusion, Buncombe County TV and cable programming. So the option to have streaming was explored in October, November 2022. Streaming equipment has been provided by the city and county. To date, that streaming option was declined. It is still an option. We still have owls. We still have the Logitech equipment. So if that is something that this commission decides that they want to do, then that is available to do that, so where you can stream in your individual IFA meetings that you have to reach a larger audience. Various speaking opportunities. So the commission presented with 27 speaking and community opportunities, including Juneteenth and the community engagement markets at the Housing Authority. Some of those were completed and done by members of you sitting in this room, and we appreciate that. And then, as you can see, the different leadership panel opportunities that were had. So, youth engagement, a contract with Slay the Mic, who was also here tonight, walking around recording. So we appreciate y'all being here and the awesome work that you're doing. For a documentary project, works with local Black student unions, and they have been paid $124,000 up to this point, or has through Buncombe County. And I think this is another video, yes, for you all to see some of the work.
Asheville, small and known for its rolling mountains, its countless breweries, and being ranked #1 as America's happiest city. While the blogs and magazines portray one reality, there is another side that is true for Black residents living here. So how did Asheville become nationally known for making a historic decision?
The national debate over reparations for slavery reached a historic milestone this month as Asheville, North Carolina became the very first city in the South and only the second in the nation to formally approve financial restitution for Black residents. Tonight, we take a closer look at what the so-called reparations would actually mean and ask, could the city be possibly a model for the rest of the country?
Reparations is a way to make life more equitable, like how you live more equitable in terms of money, community development, economic development, many different ways of making it more equitable. That's what reparations is to me. You can give out money individually. It's possible. It can help people. Some people need to pay their rent, stuff like that, groceries, food, necessities, resources. But personally, I think an efficient way to address disparities is for community development, economic development, to make the community more cultivated through means of that, in terms of like programs, school programs, after school programs, parks, communities. There's many different ways.
The Reparations Commission is empowered to make short, medium, and long-term recommendations that will make significant progress towards repairing the damage caused by public and private systematic racism. The task of the Reparations Commission is to issue a report in a timely manner for consideration by the city and other participating community groups for incorporation into the respective short-term and long-term priorities and plans.
In 2017, 4,332 businesses were reported to the census in Asheville, but only 309 were owned by Black and brown business owners.
Our city has an obligation to obviously right the wrongs, right? And our present government are not responsible per se for the harms that have happened, but they do understand the devastating effect that urban renewal and now gentrification has had on Black-owned businesses. So part of the reparations process, I think that our city ought to be responsible for funding Black businesses and getting them off the ground. And I think that once that happens, we'll have a thriving Black economy. We know that if it's going to happen, we have to do it ourselves, but funding it helps.
In Asheville City Schools, only 11% of Black students grades 3 to 8 were considered proficient in math in the 2021-2022 school year, based on an end-of-year standardized test compared to the 66% of white students who were considered proficient. That's a 55% point gap. Similarly, only 13% of Black students in the same grades were considered proficient in reading, compared to 75% of white students, a 62% point gap.
I feel like it's important to know your history. It's a part of our history. We can't erase it, no matter if the government wants to take that away from schooling. But you can't erase that, and you can't really get over that. So I feel like implementing more money towards programming, just adding more money to that so people can learn what America is. It would be great to see more Black doctors, just again, that representation.
Between 2013 and 2017, the infant mortality rate was 19.6 per 1,000 live births for Black Buncombe County mothers, compared to 5.1 per 1,000 live births for white Buncombe County mothers.
Just reading programs, after-school reading programs to help kids, especially African-American kids. Like the reading rate in Asheville for African-American kids is substantially lower than everyone else.
Acknowledgements to the harm that's been done, I think that can be done on a national platform.
In 2020, the Black home ownership rate in Asheville was 37.8%, while the white home ownership rate was 69.6%.
There's no model to follow. We are setting the precedents, and that's a lot of pressure. It's unique to Asheville, Buncombe County, what we're doing.
In 2022, Black incarcerated individuals accounted for 32% of the Buncombe County Detention Center average rate daily population.
We're really encouraging our young people, those who are still part of the home, do something to try to make sure that we secure that for the future. Reparation to me would be, what can we do now to make it better for our children? Not so much what can I get out of it.
So where do we go from here?
Okay, so let me let them get out on the shine. Woohoo. All right, so first of all, let's give another round of applause. That was an awesome video by Slay the Mic team. They're in the room. Will y'all stand up? I know y'all probably don't want to, but let's honor and celebrate the hard work that y'all are doing. So stand and get recognized. That's the awesome documentary. It's an awesome documentary that shares some great information and gives a history of what's been going on and the work that's been happening and how we're going to try to continue that. So as we continue with community engagement, community awareness, again, flyers have been distributed out in community events, neighborhood meetings. We have paid social media, press releases, pitches, media coverage, regular advertising with urban news. So these are just some of the things that we are doing, city and county, using our CAPE teams to get the word out and keep the word out and advertise all the hard work that each of you sitting in this room are doing. So this is some examples of some of that hard work and where it's been listed in those places. So you can see some of Buncombe County government on Facebook, Asheville City on Facebook, again, the YouTube channel, the Hub, the public input, /Asheville Reparations. These are all the places where the information is being displayed and being given out to the community. So again, in the past 30 days, you can see where you have media coverage. Some of those numbers are probably a little hard to see, but the percentages are upwards of 45 to 50%. Some go as high as 60% for viewership in those different areas. So by coverage, by media type, by outcomes, by volume, and by region. So we are tracking not only what we're doing, but we're also tracking it. We're tracking how many people are listening and tuning in and where there's areas for improvement. So what's next? Continue promotion of the recommendations through paid and earned media, on the ground with the IFAs, the live information gatherings and sharing out, which will start coming soon. Offering new interviews with WRAS, where are we now? As the last question in the documentary, how do we move forward from here? Continuing to collect feedback through publicinput.com/AVL Reparations. Presentations to the legacy neighborhoods and other neighborhoods by request. So if you want us to come or you want the commissioners to come, request so they can come out and share information. Presentations to the Asheville Housing Authority, city and county boards and commissions, reels and videos highlighting the IFA's work, and continue to develop communication resources for the commission, and planning to distribute the Cease to Harm audit report coming early in 2024. That work is going forward. They are doing really great work, and they're excited to bring those results to you, and we're excited for you all to have that result. So next steps, as you can see, we're kind of down at activity 7 and 8 with community engagement input, and you all will continue to do your recommendation vetting and refinement, and then we'll continue downward to present the recommendations to the commission for voting, which will be an ongoing process through this month, through November, December, and then submit a written report detailing the full slate of recommendations, and then ongoing support for project implementation. So work has been done, and we still have some work to do. Any questions? I'll leave it on that slide.
Thank you so much, Brenda and Ms. Brenda and Dr. Appreciate that. What we're going to do is go around the room. We're going to practice this our first time. Y'all ready? Okay. Mr. MD, do you have a question, praise, or feedback regarding the presentation you just seen around community engagement?
No.
No comment?
If I have a comment later.
If you have a comment later after time has passed, you just write it down or send an email. Okay, and just so you all know, we are already past time for our agenda, so if you do have a question, it'll be noted in the notes, but may not be answered in real time, but your answer, it will get answered, just maybe through email, because we got to get to IFA report outs. Mr. Dwayne Barton, do you have a comment, praise, or feedback?
I had a comment about the outreach. I think there's some nighttime things that we can go to that's full of young, vibrant, young people and promote the reparations too. I think we should really go to parties where people are and not expect people to come just because we have an event.
Noted. Thank you, Doctor. I guess you're about to be a doctor soon. Dwayne Barton, thank you. Mr. McPeters.
No comment.
No comment. Ms. Burris.
I just want to say I've enjoyed the update on the presentation. I think it was very informative, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Tiffany.
I have several questions. So my first question is going under the IFA promotion, and that question is who declined, and if that so who declined us not having those virtual or hybrid IFA meetings, and if that still is allowed, if we can still have that, can we also look at it later? So if it's live stream and say education is running the same time as health and wellness, if we get it to come to our IFAs, are we able to kind of look at it later on as a recording? My next question is around the youth engagement, but it goes to Buncombe and Asheville City. So it's really more around the budget. So how much access do we as commission members have to see the budget as far as what's been spent, what's left, and things like that? And if so, who are those channels that we need to go to? And that's it.
Thank you, Tiffany. All right, those questions are noted. Ms. Williams.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to express my appreciation for the work product that's gone in. I want to also remind everybody that there are some of us who are dollar people, and that's what we focus on and what we do best. So I hope no one's offended when I always come back with mentioning of dollars and budgets. But that is the only way that I know to get these things done. So I just want to thank everybody for producing a tangible product here, and just knowing that there are people who are suffering in this community. This is not a game. They are actually suffering and waiting for us to produce. So thank you, everyone, for the work that you've done. And I look forward to taking the budgetary process and programmatic thrust where it needs to go. And that's in reality.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Keith Young.
You need some time to process, so I'll have questions at a later date.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Walters.
No comment.
No comment. Mr. Dwayne.
I have maybe a question. As far as the presentations to the legacy neighborhoods, presentations to the Asheville City Council, I'm curious as to what that looks like and whether or not I can be a part of any of those presentations.
Okay, question is noted. Thank you. Mr. Dwayne Richardson.
Just like to congratulate everybody on the hard work that we've all done and continue to do.
Sorry.
I hope that we will keep our patience for the process and that we will see it to the end.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson.
No comment.
Okay. Mr. Mullen. Dr. Mullen.
Yeah, last commission meeting, a proposal was put on the table regarding community engagement. I'd like to see a melding of the proposal that was just gone through, the account that was just gone through with the proposal that was made last week for our consideration. I'd also like to see presentations that are also made to the community, but community collaborations with what the city and county are doing. I'd like to see the flow go both ways.
Thank you, Dr. Mullen. Tawana Little.
No comment at this moment.
Okay. Ms. Glenda McDowell.
No comment.
Ms. Babette Mays.
Just like to say thank you for the presentation.
Okay.
We need to speak up. I can barely.
You're getting a lot of thank yous. All right, Mr. Roy Harris.
This past weekend, I got to hang out with all of my kids, all of my grandkids, and soon to be great-grandchild. And guess what? Questions to each group, I would ask them about what ye say about reparations. And I was amazed. They had opinions. And so let's not forget the generations beyond us or behind us that we think that we know it all. And then I met a group of 2 young ladies last Wednesday from Costa Rica that was in town visiting Asheville. And I asked them the same question. And guess what one of them said? Thank you for asking that question. I'll send you my comments. And so the 2 twin sisters are going to send me their comments because they just saw Asheville right now from a tourism standpoint. So, thank you for the presentation. It sort of brought it all together for me, and I'm ready to go again.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Jesse Ray.
Yeah, I thought it was a great presentation. Just thinking in expanding the outreach of the commission and all the work we're doing. Has there been any consideration to public radio, to UNC TV, to those types of programs which can help provide in-depth understanding of what the commission is about, so that people will have some background when the recommendations come out. It just appears that we're centered on the standard outreach and standard modes of communication. But if you go to public radio, if you go to UNC TV, I think it would help.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ray. Ms. Cece Weston.
I want to say that this was a great reminder of all the work that we have done as a commission, and I truly appreciate the team putting this together. I do have a question about the speaking opportunities, but I will write that down.
Okay. All right, Mr. Christopher Gordon.
I think everything that I wanted to say has been said, so no further comments.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Ms. Renata? No comment. Okay. All right, that concludes this portion of the agenda. What we will now move forward with is our IFA report outs. Dr. Mullen, Ms. Dewana, have comments here?
So given we have heard a lot from our commission members around having our IFAs more, being able to hear from all of our IFAs at these meetings, I wanted to make sure, because we do meet once a month as a full commission, and I wanted to make sure that we all could be getting the information and our talents and skills that we provide to this process we can actually, as we hear from the different IFAs, look at ways that we can share across the arena and across our focus areas. So each IFA will give a report out tonight. So it's not 1 or 2, and we will have questions, and we'll be allowed to ask questions. At the end, we allow the time for that as well. So we're gonna start with the IFA report outs. Sly, how are you doing?
Good evening, everyone.
And y'all have a copy of this in y'all packets. Yep. And so, so each IFA has 10 minutes. 5? All right, 5.
Good evening, everyone. Salam, and I am Merit IFA Facilitator and Administrator. Thank you, Vice Chair, for allowing us to be here and report out tonight. So what you have in front of you, the presentation that we're going to do this evening is actually not new to you. The information that we'll share is information that was shared at our retreat this past summer. The Vice Chair asked that we come up and kind of give update on where we are with our recommendations and the feedback that was received from the city and the county with regards to those recommendations.
Each IFA could also speak, and I think it should have been in the meetings, about if there are areas where y'all need support. Do y'all have y'all ran into any roadblocks? Is there areas that we might need some additional support, or we waiting on something? Like those things, because we're all here. So maybe somebody got one of a skill set than somebody else that could help, and we can fill in the gaps so that we can keep this process moving forward.
Thank you for that. So I'll start off with criminal justice. What I would like to note is the feedback that we received from criminal justice. We received it the evening, I believe, of our meeting. We have not met as a group since we received that feedback. We will be meeting on Wednesday, and that information has been shared out with the criminal justice group. So we have 6 buckets that we are working with recommendations. I won't read them all out to you, but the buckets are policing, policing Black representation in city and county government. Up under that is offering incentives and eliminating racial disparities in courts, policies, and law through training. I will note that there is more to that, but I wanted to keep it to one slide. So the second bucket is training. One of the things that we talked about is mandatory annual, periodic, or ad hoc training of public servants in the criminal justice field. Our third bucket is funding and the resources, so allocating funding to support Blacks who have been involved in the criminal justice system. Our fourth bucket is the school to prison pipeline. I will note that we will be working on a joint recommendation with the education IFA on this. The fifth bucket is accountability. So we want to evaluate, create, and implement policies and procedures that effectively address the racial disparities within the criminal justice system. And then our final bucket is recruitment. So we're looking at strengthening recruitment within the police department. So when the feedback that we received, again, we received that at our last meeting, so we didn't have an opportunity to take a deep dive into the information. But what I'm speaking for my group, and if I'm off, let me know. It would be great to have those who provided the feedback from the county and the city to be able to come to our IFA and speak to us about the feedback, answer any questions that we may have. So that is the support that we need at this time. Are there any questions? Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Mullen.
I know it's in here, I just don't see it. Attention paid to reentry programs and reduction of recidivism.
Yes, there is.
And that's number.
So it's not located on here again. I was trying to keep it to one slide, but that is part of our recommendations.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you. Tara?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tara Brown, and I support the Economic Development IFA. I'm going to give an update for our group, but anyone please feel free from our IFA to chime in. We are still working on the same set of recommendations, just adding more details to see more feedback. So, like others have said, nothing here is really new, but we would love input on the overall vision for what these recommendations are. So our first main recommendation that you can see here, and I hope this font is big enough, is the same one that we were focusing on at the retreat over the summer. So create an economic development center for Black Asheville that is centrally located with commercial space for entrepreneurs, job training services, financial education, and a financial institution that is designed for and led by Black residents of Asheville and Buncombe County. It lists some industries that are supported or that should be included in that. So that's definitely still a main focus. Some of the feedback that we got from city and county staff was to provide more details, maybe look at combining with other IFAs who are also looking at similar place-based recommendations. So part of this recommendation also includes looking at land that was taken during urban renewal or replacing land where, you know, businesses used to exist that no longer do. So we've talked to the housing IFA about combining some of those recommendations around land that would be used for housing and for economic development, small business purposes, commercial space. The second major recommendation that I want to highlight is providing each legacy neighborhood with a recommended $250,000 in grants towards their community goals, and also consider public housing neighborhoods as well. So we talked about this before as thinking about neighborhood-based programming for economic development. So we meet in Burton Street. The Burton Street neighborhood plan for a while has been advocating for, incubator space, programming to be in the neighborhood. But other neighborhoods have said that they might want other things or have other priorities in their community plans. So I know East End is working on their plan. Shiloh has their 2025 plan. So if other neighborhoods have different priorities that isn't economic development, that's, you know, totally fine. And those funds could be put towards other uses. So that is something that we would recommend, economic development would recommend as a very short-term, immediate goal, because we've heard over and over that neighborhoods have been working towards these goals for a long time, have priorities that they want funding for. So we definitely want feedback on if that's something that would work for your legacy neighborhood or public housing communities, any input that you might have on that. There's one more on here that I'll just point out. Or am I going over time?
No, you're good.
Okay. Which is grants for Black-owned businesses. It's up here. Thank you. So number 2 is grants for Black-owned businesses, fund existing Black-owned businesses at a recommended amount of up to $100,000. So these are our initial recommendations, and we would really love feedback. Similar to what Salah said, we want to invite city and county staff to our January IFA meeting, so I'll send that out to discuss some of the feedback on these recommendations, but we also want feedback from people in other IFAs on the commission, and of course community feedback on these recommendations. January. I can tell you the date if I click on this little calendar. So it would be January 4th, yeah. They thought with the holidays and all of that December might be too soon, so.
We got you covered.
Yeah, so those are my recommendations for now. Okay, go ahead. Oh, I don't know, sorry, I'm not the facilitator. Let me back up.
We gonna hold questions to the end to make sure everybody can process the information that they're hearing after all of the IFA. So as you get questions, as you hear from each IFA, write it down on your paper, and then we'll come around and we can hear them all collectively.
Can I say one recommendation on development thing?
You gotta say the big about it.
Yes, thank you. So one recommendation that isn't on here that we've talked about, we did present it at the summer retreat, is direct payments of some kind. So we've talked about looking at Durham's model of guaranteed income, where people get, maybe $500 a month if they meet certain
categories, which we could make up or, determine the best policy for. So, that could be low-income people, people in public housing. We could decide what we want it to be, what the amount might want to be. But there are other places that there's, I think, 100 cities that have these guaranteed income pilots. There are other models like baby bonds to build wealth, generational wealth. So we definitely still want to be looking at those other recommendations and get feedback. Did I say it right?
Funny.
Thank you. Up next is Education IFA. Christopher Gordon will be speaking on behalf of that IFA.
Chris Gordon, Education IFA. Dr. Lavin couldn't be with us tonight, so I'm taking her spot. We have a number of recommendations, 8 of them there. Community-based education, Black students in schools, education programming, HEED, which is it's Help, Educate, Employ, and Develop, Black Teacher Retention Promise, Education Accountability Task Force, Stop the Harm, Disproportionate Suspensions, Expulsions, Community Education Resource Campus. There are 2 more that you haven't seen yet. One is on post-secondary educational opportunities, and the other is on early childhood development. So those have been developed. We just haven't presented them to the board yet. Currently, we're working on refining our recommendations to include community feedback gathered using SWOT and power mapping analysis responses collected at our community meeting of educational stakeholders, which included school board members, child care operations, district officials, local community members, parents, education nonprofits, and students from Asheville High SILSA. We've outlined the next steps needed to move our recommendations forward in terms of gathering data, identifying budgets, identifying existing programs to use for modeling. We know that we'll need to devise a strategy to work through the amounts of data needed to support our argument. We are working to collaborate on a joint recommendations with economic development and criminal justice. And we know we need to continue hearing from community members and the commission at large as we try to improve and refine our recommendations.
So much.
I don't know that we and other members I don't know that there's any other support we need. I know it sounds like Tiffany was interested in having maybe a live broadcast of one of our meetings or something like that, so we can discuss that. We do meet every other Tuesday. Our next meeting is tomorrow night at the YWCA. It's 6 o'clock, and everybody's welcome as usual. Questions?
Questions at the end. Thank you so much, Mr. Gordon, for that presentation. Our next IFA will be Health and Wellness IFA. She says her name.
My name is Deanne Greenlee Jones, and on behalf of the Health and Wellness IFA, we have received and had a chance to go over briefly the recommendations or the feedback from city and county staff. We also wish to have another meeting and invite them to those that went over the recommendations. One of the common themes through Health and Wellness's recommendations are access to health care, and particularly access to medical personnel who are BIPOC, who would be able to provide care. What we are understanding, and what's probably when we ask about support, Health and Wellness is learning that unfortunately there are not a lot of local accreditation bodies or accountability entities. It's going all the way up to the state and the national level. As many of your IFAs have discovered, being able to hold accountable entities in your IFA is paramount. But one of the things that we're understanding is that there are not a lot of local bodies. So we're determining what the strategies might be in order for us to maybe go to the MAHECs, go to Mission, partner with other organizations, because there is, in Western North Carolina, a huge gap in BIPOC medical professionals. I was in a meeting with senators a couple of weeks ago where the state is determining that there needs to be a body to address the lack of Black medical professionals statewide. I asked the question, was there going to be an intentional recruitment entity because there's even more dire straits? And they said no. They said they were not going to focus on recruiting African-American medical professionals. And I decided to let that sit, and there were no responses from the advocates in the room. So we also know that the harm continues to take place because even with a newly funded from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services entity that's supposed to look at the scarcity of one of the main themes in our recommendations, the lack of medical professionals and the lack of access to care because of that lack, there seemed to be no intention to support the recruitment. Wow. Disturbing. So we'll continue to work with that. It means then that we're going to be partnering locally, perhaps, and meeting with other entities, the CEOs of organizations, to say, this is disturbing, and how can we move forward together as a community if this isn't happening? When we talk about support, I may very well be asking upon commissioners to attend some of those meetings with some of the leaders of bodies here in Western North Carolina, and Buncombe County, because it just doesn't seem like it's a priority. Some of the other recommendations that revolve around this, though, the good news, or better news, is that we do have access to doula programs, so we're really interested in figuring out how we can support organizations that have come to Asheville and Buncombe County who either were not supported when they came originally, how can we attract them to come back, but how can their efforts be placed so that they are attending to those African American women of childbearing age and those young children. So there is somewhat of some progress when it comes to organizations beyond the county looking at what's happening here, including through the Healthy Opportunities pilot, where there have been questions asked of us, how can we make sure that people get access to resources that are available? So having some partnership inquiries on a state and a national level is positive, but again, it means that it's going to take a little digging and a little concerted effort, more concerted effort, to get access to those circles when we traditionally have not had access to them. I think that'll be it for the recommendations at this point.
Thank you so much. So, we are now at the Housing IFA. Oh, hi, Salah.
Hey, Salam and Anaya Merritt. I'm going to go ahead and close us out with the Housing IFA. Again, we received our feedback from the city and the county with regards to our recommendations. We have not met since I received that email. We meet next Tuesday, so we'll be able to sit and speak as a team about the recommendations that were put forward for us to consider from their feedback from the city and the county. So what I will say is that for our first recommendation, which was to plan and develop complete communities on reparations land, i.e. Black-owned businesses, we had 3 bullets under that, which was to create a land acquisition program, create a new dollar lot program, and acquire the South Charlotte Street corridor. We are meeting with the Economic Development IFA. I was able to attend their meeting last week and got some really great feedback from them and information on what they're doing. So we're working to combine our recommendation with theirs. I will say the feedback that we received from the city and the county was to break these up into individual recommendations instead of having it under one recommendation with the bullet points. I will take that back again to our group. We have not met. We will meet next Tuesday evening and we will be able to discuss that. I think the support that we would need, if I speak out of hand, please let me know, Housing IFA, is that we probably would like for the city and the county to come and provide us some feedback as to their feedback. So with that, thank you all.
All right.
To discuss with each other? You want to give them 5 minutes to discuss with each other, or just go one by one?
So we will now go around the room and see if there's any questions, concerns, any additional input, because we're all a part of an IFA. And so we'll give everyone the floor for 2 minutes. to speak on the information that you've heard about, anything that relates to our IFAs and the information we just gathered. So we will start to our right with MZ.
Sometimes can you switch it around so that we get some time to think?
Okay, I got you. Let me start over here then. But we'll start to our left with Miss Renata Congress.
Questions or comments?
Any questions or comments to our IFA facilitators or just in general?
Got a lot to take in, so I'll have to.
Okay, well, this is what we can do. Let's take 5 minutes so we can process, because there was a lot of information, and then we will come back to this. So we're going to take a 5-minute processing break.
So with that said, 5 minutes to just kind of review. If you want to chat with the person beside you, if you have questions or if you need to think through, we'll take 5 minutes and then use the restroom if you need to as well. When we come back, we'll do our round table. Okay? See y'all in 5 minutes.
See y'all in 5 minutes.
so we will, if you can, come back to your seats so we can begin our roundtable discussion. We will go ahead and start to our left for Mr. MD. We're going to start to our left. We gave you 5 minutes to kind of discuss amongst each other or take a break about what you've heard from the IFA groups. So we'll start with Mr. Christopher Gordon. Do you have it? Well, you presented, but do you have any questions or comments for the other IFA group?
The only comment I have is, well done, everybody. Obviously, a lot of work has been done by all the IFAs, and keep going forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Ms. CeCe Weston?
I think this has been really good. I do have one question, and maybe it's fleshed out in the recommendations, but the housing and economic development work together. The land acquisition is great. However, if people are given land, what are they going to do about the house? What are black businesses going to do about the land that they acquire? If they get $100,000, that's not going to buy a building. So I do have a question about that and just some food for thought.
Great. Thank you, Ms. CeCe. Mr. Jesse Ray.
Yeah, well, Ms. Weston kind of had an overview of, my question also was to economic development and item number 2, grants for black-owned businesses. And my question is, what is the source of that grant funding? Where is that money coming from?
All right. Mr. Roy Harris.
Oh, one of the questions that's been rolling around in my bald head is, who? I can't, yeah, who? And I know we said blacks, but then I'm like, who? Who, is that everybody? Because if it is, I'm going to have my whole family to move here. So
And
that's
is that for all IFAs? We want to kind of spell out specifically who we're intending these recommendations for?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Ms. Babette.
I pass.
Okay. Ms. Glenda.
I don't have a direct question, but it is a good feeling to hear the information and the input to see the connection of all of it.
Great. Ms. Dewana.
I do have questions in reference to, like, do we have any updated data on what the demographics of our legacy neighborhoods is now and where those pockets are of black people? Because I want us to be intentional with this process and recognizing that gentrification happened. So a lot of those people are not still in legacy neighborhoods. And how do we be intentional about when we say legacy neighborhoods, we speak specifically to the black demographics that actually have not, who are no longer there and was pushed out, who was harmed. You know what I mean? Like those are the people that was harmed, the ones who got pushed out of their homes and no longer are part of these legacy neighborhoods, but are at heart because that's where they started. You know what I mean? So how do we see what those demographics look like so that we can be intentional about, because like I be thinking every time I hear it is, are we talking about the new demographics of these neighborhoods that don't look like us? You know what I mean? Or are we talking about the people who was there? And so I just want to be intentional. And I would caution that because we say a lot of times legacy neighborhoods, and I remember like my family owning houses in Montford and all of the things, but also I also recognize a lot of my family in public housing. And I want to be intentional. They're in the county and Arden and Swananoa, you know what I mean? So let's be intentional about that. So that's all I would ask, is that we really consider the demographics and get a little fine-tuned on how we define legacy neighborhoods.
Perfect. Thank you. Dr. Mullen.
2 points. One is, in my work with other organizations that had resources we found that all organizations that were submitting requests did not have the capacity to adequately use the resources that they could have gotten. And so capacity building, I think, is something that needs to be seriously considered. The second point, I think, is it falls between the cracks, and it's covered piecemeal in the IFAs. But I wonder if it'd be more useful to have a proposal specifically aimed at the youth, be it through schools, be it through community groups, be it through recreational activities, listening posts, whatever it is that we can talk about the full inclusion of the next generation in what we're doing.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mullen. Both Dr. Mullen and DeWanna didn't list a specific IFA, which means maybe this applies to all IFAs,
Yeah.
what they said. So this would be something you want to take back to your individual IFA groups to discuss. One, about how do we identify the people that we actually intend to benefit through this process, and then also can we include an element of capacity building and youth across all of our IFAs? So that would be a topic of discussion that you would want to take back to your IFA groups. So the next time we hear report outs, if you all agree, there would be another a bullet of something that speaks to capacity building or the youth, if that's what you and your IFA group choose to do. Mr. Eric Robinson.
I don't have anything at this time. I'm going to hold off right now.
Okay, no problem. Mr. Dwayne Richardson.
No comment at this time.
Okay, Mr. Dwayne McAfee.
I appreciate the conversations and what we're doing right now. I would like for maybe us to be able to critique it just a little, and either, irregardless of which side of the room you start, maybe we could have a show of hands as we're going as to which one of us want to have an engaging conversation and which ones do not. I don't feel it's necessary to poll every member to see if we have something to say. We should be able to do that independent on our own.
And as we move through our storming norming phases, I promise you, I believe we can get there.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Walters.
I think we're doing great work, and we just need to work together. We can combine some of these to accomplish our goal.
Okay. Mr. Keith Young.
Still processing, nothing at this time.
Okay. Ms. Williams.
Well, just wanted to say that there are ways, when we talk about legacy neighborhoods, one of the things that we talked about was building the capacity of those neighborhoods to control this reparations process after this recommendation process sunsets. And one way to identify that is a couple of ways from just doing research is land disposal records that are contained at UNC Asheville and Housing Authority, and also city directories that identify these legacy neighborhoods and the members of those. So I just want to commend everybody for the work that has been done, and there's much more. I'd also like to see something mentioned about participatory budgeting. A lot of people have never participated in a capital budgeting process in the Black community, and that is something that is long past due. There's some other little things that go into this, and we'll refine those as we go along. So just wanted to thank everybody for their work.
Ms. Williams, a clarifying question for the participatory budgeting. Would that be all IFAs or specific?
I think it's economic development, pretty much for the Black community. Because when I've gone to those sessions and when I pick a capital budget up or city or county budget, I don't see anybody who looks like me.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Tiffany.
Not public. My question is around, for all IFAs, just the fact that language is matters on both sides. So as we're putting all this work into a draft, remember certain words will not be able to go into the final. So what conversation in your individual IFAs are you having just around that? Because some of the recommendations may have to be reworded in a certain aspect to support what we want to accomplish as far as an outcome. So just in terms of, as we're putting in this work, we may have to reword it. Are we ready for that if necessary?
Can we get support from the city and county with that, from the staff with rewording, or that is fully on the IFAs. Can support be offered?
We can. We're open to help however we're needed.
Okay.
How about that?
Great. All right, thank you, Ms. Tiffany. Ms. Burris?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Mr. McPeters?
Just want to echo kind of what Mr. McAfee was stating on here. I think that us hearing what everybody has to share is good and helpful, but I think it would benefit us if we could speak more and share more input about what we hear, about ways that we can chime in or ways that other IFA components can kind of fit into recommendations. So I guess it's not a question, but a proposal would be maybe if we could highlight IFAs so that IFAs can share recommendations and we can have more time to share across the room about what we hear for recommendations, proposals, ways to fix it. Also there's a lot of recommendations that are good. I think that everybody's doing a great job. Just want to highlight that this template is really good in making sure that those underlying questions for your recommendations are answered, because I still see some gaps in a lot of recommendations. So I think it would be beneficial if we got the time to actually help beefing up those recommendations as a group with our time versus hearing from everybody, like all IFAs.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dwayne Barton?
No comment.
No comment. All right, Mr. MZ?
Yes, my first question or my first point is I would like to hear the IFAs respond to some of the questions at these meetings as opposed to us just stating our thoughts and then that being left. I don't know what the process is. That really hasn't been explained yet. I'm sure it will be eventually. Secondly was question for the economic development. How are we thinking about funding or subsidizing Black individuals or families that have been hurt or harmed? Going back to Ms. Little's point about naming names, has any conversation come about around those topics? How do we fund or subsidize Black organizations that are doing well, that are counteracting the harms that are still happening? What are we doing about people or families that have been hurt or harmed that no longer live here and do not want to return here? How are we compensating folks like that for those hurt or harms that have happened? In terms of economic development, again, how are we thinking about ideas about without tax subsidies? If it's not cash payments, then maybe it could be built in a budget to subsidize certain needs. And then economic development also around representation. I didn't hear that, but we need advisors, we need banks, or we need some type of infrastructure to address those deficiencies. Around health, I had a question around how are we looking at environment. Certain areas, there's been studies, there's a study done at Warren Wilson College last year, a thesis around environments in specific neighborhoods, fog, pollution, and that has an impact on health as well. So how do we look at health around environment? And that's it.
Okay. We're going to give you a lot of time. We're going to keep
Give me some time, that's right.
Good, yeah,
I can.
Okay. Thank you all so much for those. Did I miss anybody? Ms. Renata?
I do have one question for economic development when you're talking about direct payments, dollars to possible $500 a month and how do you determine, how would you determine how to give $500 to who, the families or what, and how long is that going to last?
Okay.
And how long would that last? So, I mean, $500 is really not enough, it's like could be a partial payment for an apartment or somebody's medication, so just how do you determine 500? And wasn't, okay, well, that's, never mind. Well,
Mr. Keith, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't have a comment before, but I did hear her statement and made me process something different. My statement would be, is it possible to have the city and the county show us the framework of the One Buncombe Fund on how sole proprietorship was specifically targeted to give businesses money from federal, state, and local government? That kind of, hearing you say that, made me think about that. And that's specifically for economic development, almost anything else that's up there.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Okay. So thank you all for, one, giving me the chance to facilitate discussion, because we are almost at the end of our agenda. We have just a few more things to talk about, but feedback is heard about changing and switching up how we do things. Just know our goal is to get through all of our items. We will create space where space can be created, but it still will have to be some limitations in how we have those conversations. Okay, so with that said, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Dewana.
So we are now, no, we're at the resolution. So we are now at the resolution and justification discussion.
Is it time? Okay. For the next portion that was on the agenda was a discussion around the justification of the timeline extension for the commission. Instead of opening that up for discussion, some of the things is already outlined in those whereas statements, but Dr. Mullen had a great proposal to add this to our survey after the meeting. So in the post-meeting survey, you will see a question added for you to explain or justify why you feel the need for this project to be extended to December 2024. Is that correct? December 2024.
Yeah, that's right.
So we want those explanations in writing, and so you will have the chance to write that out in the post-meeting survey. With that said, we will move forward to Ms. Salah, who will give us the next steps for the December meeting. And this is, she'll talk about how to prepare these recommendations for the commission so we can have discussion.
Excuse me, can I just raise one question on the resolution?
Sure, yes.
I don't mean to be out of order.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Question?
So in the whereas, I see specific on the second, from the top of the page on the second whereas, I don't see education specifically indicated.
If that's something you want to add to, you can add that in your response in the survey. That'd be the perfect place to put it. MZ, question?
Yeah, just kind of skip over, I think it was a major thing that we voted on for the last meeting.
Exactly.
So this idea of justifying what we voted for, where does that come from? How does that compare to other commissions, how they operate?
Yeah.
It just seems like rules are being made up.
Yeah. Ms. Brenda, do you want to speak to that? The question is, why is a justification needed for something that they voted on? Can you give them why a justification is needed?
Hello again, Brenda Mills, with the City of Asheville Equity Office. You have a resolution that was presented by Commissioner Young in August, I believe, and we as staff do need to take this to our City Council and Board of Commissioners, and I think that they would like to hear your justification for why you need the extension and what you've done to date. So we just need to put something together to provide that to them, because we've not presented any completed anything other than your immediate recommendations. We just would like to have that as staff.
Just a concern in these post-meeting surveys, like in looking at the numbers, it looks like they decline every month. Like, I don't know how many commission members we have now before who comes, but if we're asking people to actually comment and use the survey to do it, I think the last one showed that we had 11. And so, like, people aren't responding. So my concern is that if we're basing this to the post-meeting survey, is that everybody's not going to respond. So if we could maybe use the survey and/or we have time here to discuss that, I think that would be more beneficial, because we have been discussing this for a couple of months now. So to get everybody's feedback and voice, I think that would be good to maybe use a both standpoints to get feedback.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brenda. We are going to move forward to 7:49, so we do want to.
We need to have it, so Salah.
Good evening, all. Salamanaya Merritt, again, IFA facilitator and administrator. So what you have here on the screen is our IFA recommendations and what's next. You all should probably have a copy of this in your packet. I won't take up a whole lot of your time, but I wanted to explain to you how we're moving forward with recommendations. I've heard from Mr. Yehuda, McPeters, and McAfee about some concerns with how the recommendations are moving forward. So in November, which is now, we're prepping for December CRC presentations. What we would like for you to do in your respective IFAs is to take a deeper dive into your recommendations, flesh them out as much as you can. And then we're going to prep for December, January, and February CRC meetings. And there will be 2 IFAs that will present each month starting in December. So again, in December, it's going to be that deeper dive into your recommendations, and then we're going to have 2 presentations at our next meeting. We're going to have education and economic development. They have agreed to present because they also have overlapping recommendations that they're working on. And at that meeting, you will be able to provide your feedback. So Mr. McPeters, you were saying, can we at least provide some feedback? That's going to start in December. We'll be able to provide our feedback. So you guys are like right on track with that. And then, of course, you'll go back to your respective IFAs and you will refine, if applicable, the recommendations based on the feedback that has been received from the full CRC. Does that make sense? Okay, so we'll move forward to January 2024. Again, we're kind of repetitive, but we're going to continue that deep dive into our recommendations and have 2 more presentations. We're going to have housing, and I have economic development on here because, again, we have that overlapping IFA, so it may not be a full presentation from economic development, but we will have housing and economic development. Again, you're going to refine, if applicable, based on the feedback, and then we will also have a preliminary update on the Cease the Harm audit, so that will be presented to you as well in January 2024. We'll look at February. We'll have 2 more presentations. It's going to be actually 3, health and wellness, criminal justice, and education. Again, criminal justice and education has an overlapping recommendation. So education will be presenting with criminal justice. Again, we'll continue to work on those recommendations, finalizing, prioritizing those when we think about the short, medium, and long term. And then we should have a final report for the Cease the Harm audit in February. And then we'll move on to March. Well, again, we'll just continue to work on our recommendations, that finalizing and prioritizing piece. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Mr. Young.
My question is not about what you're speaking on, but when you get past that, about when Ms. Mills was at the podium, I had a question, but I wasn't.
So he said his question was not in reference to what you're actually speaking on.
Okay.
It was more in reference to the timeline
But I will wait till you
resolution.
finish. I just wanted to make sure I got recognized for that.
Yeah, I'm actually done, unless anyone else has any questions.
Any questions? Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead, Mr. McPeters. I see your face.
It's not a question, it's more a sense of, I think it's what Mr. Young said, like, it's needing to know if there's an extension that's going to be done before I can really embrace that. So I'll pause on that.
So I think we are, no, there's no questions specifically for you, but we are going to circle back to this resolution conversation real quick as we wrap up the end of this meeting. So thank you so much, Ms. Salah. I guess most of the questions would be for you, Brenda, or whoever would like to speak on the justifications in reference to the city and county for our resolution that has already been voted on and approved by this commission. So, and why it's necessary, I think that's the major question, but I'll let them ask themselves. Go ahead, Keith.
So, to clarify.
I'm sorry, Mr. Keith, I do want to implement what Mr. Dwayne suggested. Does anybody want to comment on this? If you do want to comment on this, please raise your hand, please.
Comment on, I'm sorry.
The justification of why we need to extend.
I think, well,
Just raise your hand if you do want to comment.
Well, I had my hand up before we even.
Yeah, I want to make sure I get
I'm just saying, though, I had my hand up. And
I got
wanted
you.
to be
I want to get
recognized.
everybody's
Just
hand
skipped
at the
over me.
same time. So we got Mr. Young, Ms. Williams. Anybody else want to make a comment?
Mr. Osandu.
Who?
Osandu, but he
Mr.
wanted.
McPeters, do you want to comment on this portion? Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Dwayne?
I'm still thinking about it. I just gotta wait and
Okay.
see what he say.
All right. So we got 2 comments on the table. You have a minute of time to make your comment. 7:55. So I do
Oh, I
want to
gotta
honor
speak
everybody's
like the
time.
micro machine man.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
So I'll be very, very poignant. So, just to clarify, you said that it was staff that asked for the justification?
Staff would like to provide.
Oh, the mic off.
You can hear me. There you go. Staff would like to provide the city council and the board of commissioners with more than just a resolution. We need something that says why you'd like, well, you've got information in your resolution, but I think you need to give them a little bit more about why you would like to extend it. And what does that look like moving forward? So what are you gonna do different than you've been doing if you make it to April, if you will, that'll be 2 years. Beyond that, what are you gonna do different that you will see some results by December 2024?
So I hear you, and my only issue with that is that when we passed a resolution early on in this process to ask the city and the county to pay money every single year indefinitely to reparations, which currently sits at $1 million a year, we didn't even have a written resolution. It was spoken out loud in a meeting and voted on, and nobody asked for justification on spending money indefinitely toward reparations. But now we have a resolution that is written, and it's all, I'm still speaking.
Okay, excuse me, I'm sorry.
We have a resolution now that has it drawn out and written why we should have an extension. I feel like that should be, it just doesn't make sense. It's not apples to apples. It's okay to give us money indefinitely without justification, but
This is why I didn't want to bring it up.
having an extension for time, it just doesn't make sense. It feels like it's just,
Thank you, Mr. Keith. That's your time.
she took up half my minute.
I've been tracking it. Thank you. That's your time.
Oh, you gonna cut me off? All right,
Yes.
well,
If we
we'll
can
see
go
how
to
this
Ms.
goes.
Williams, what questions or comments do you have here?
This ain't gonna work.
Ms. Williams, do you have any?
This is not gonna work.
Basically, just very shortly, you know, people are gonna do what they wanna do, and I'm happy to work within the framework and parameters that are given in a reasonable process. But let me just say that from a logical standpoint, no city or county commission can be bound by, a future city, county, or county commission cannot be bound by anything that we say right now. They could, a year from now, say, rescind everything as far as reparations funding. So that logic, that's a non sequitur argument. The other thing is, if we're going to extend time, I'm really against it. I voted against it before. You need to be productive. You need to quit talking and start working. And that's all I can say. And a lot of y'all did not agree with that. And that's fine. But people don't respect you when you don't deliver programs and budgets. And that's all there is to it. This is a business transaction. Nothing more, nothing less. And so whatever you decide, I'm going to smile, bear it, and prepare budgets and programs. So
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time. Any other comments here?
I have a comment.
Any others from anyone else
Keith
before?
Young has a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Just 1 second, please. Are there any other comments from anyone else?
I'll speak after Mr. Young speaks.
Okay. All right, Mr. Young, 1 minute, please.
I'm just gonna say this. Don't be afraid to run off the plantation and find freedom. Do not be afraid to run off the plantation and find freedom.
Mr.
Do
Young,
not
is
be the slave.
Is this in regards to the
Do not
topic
be
at
the
hand?
slave that
If
is
it's
scared
not
to go
regarding
find
to
your
the
freedom.
topic at hand, we're gonna go to.
That's
Mr.
all I'm
Enzi.
saying.
Thank
Y'all
you,
remember
Mr.
that.
Young.
Y'all
Mr.
make sure you
Enzi,
remember that, okay?
Mr. Enzi,
You see what's happening. You see what's happening. Remember that.
Thank you. Mr. Enzi, do you
You're
have a
welcome.
comment regarding the topic at hand?
I'll put it in the survey.
Thank you. Okay, so that will bring us to the close of this conversation. I'm gonna turn it over to,
MZ had a
he
question.
just said he will put it in the
We'd like to
survey.
respond to a couple of things.
Sure, go ahead.
Number one, we will take your resolution as it is to the City Council and Board of Commissioners, and we will give it to them. We've been instructed that we will do that. If this is going to be a hardship and cause any kind of angst, we will be glad to do that. But if you're comfortable with the resolution as it's written, we'll be glad to send that to you. The other thing is, as Commissioner Williams said, we cannot obligate future council members. It is the will of the council at this time to provide at least beginning at $500,000 each year with an accelerator of 2%. So for right now, we're standing with that. So just wanted to say that.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's a question?
It is a question.
And we also have public comment.
So go ahead, Tiffany.
So it's just in direct to the resolution. Just going on to section 3 at the bottom here, where the commission will continue the work. And this is just in relation to my role and others here as being alternates. So if we're continuing the work and we're asking for an extension, can we have just clarity around how this roll around or wrap around of maintaining continuity with commission members will be noticed and acknowledged as we move forward?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tiffany.
Thank you.
Okay, turn it over to you, Dr.
All
Moore.
right.
Next steps.
You want me to
No,
do
go
it?
ahead.
So we are at our next steps. I think we have our IFA draft recommendations presentation, December 2023, cease to harm audit update, January 2024. Roundtable check-in with commissioners, with Vernisha. She'll be contacting y'all over the next month, right? Over this next month to have one-on-one conversations with y'all about y'all's experiences, how y'all feel, and all of the things. And then we are now at public comment. So we have 3 people signed up for public comment, and you have 3 minutes each. So we will, the first person signed up is Mr. Jonathan Wainscott.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Wainscott. I've been studying the history of white supremacy here in Asheville as it pertains to the municipal government for a couple of years now, and I can't possibly drop everything that I've learned in 3 minutes. I think that a full review of that history really informs all of the IFAs, because all of the policies, all the disparities that you're talking about today sprang forth from our municipal governments. And so I've studied the 1931 election that formed our current government, the 1898 election here. Of course, that was 125 years ago this coming Wednesday, the Wilmington Massacre. I don't know if anybody's seen the headlines that were printed here in Asheville. And then 2 years later, in 1900, there was a statewide referendum for the literacy test and changing the North Carolina Constitution. And here in Asheville, there were actually torch-lit processions in the name of white supremacy sponsored by the Democratic Party that took place starting at the courthouse. And here's a parade route that's listed. I'll just pass that along later on. There's a whole bunch of names of speakers that were included. There were a list of marshals that signed up to basically march in white supremacy. The chairman of the Democratic Party at the time, J.D. Murphy, made an announcement in the paper, and at the end of it, it says, "Let all people who believe in the supremacy of the white race be present and manifest their purpose to make white supremacy permanent in North Carolina." And these types of editorials are replete in the Asheville Citizen. It's a daily thing that's going on. And then I have a list of about 90 different people who participated in this, and they're familiar names. Some are Merriman's, Reynolds, names that you're familiar with. Atkinson, don't know who he is, but there's an Atkinson Street, Rector Street, lots of names of streets. There are former aldermen, future aldermen, the Commissioner of Public Safety, the Commissioner of Public Works, mayors, and so I have a list of 90 white supremacists here in regards to that. So I've been doing a lot of research in all of this. I'd be happy to meet with anybody anytime about this history. I'm working on a timeline from 1881 to 1931 that really is kind of at the heart of white supremacist efforts in Asheville. Asheville was the birthplace of some Jim Crow policies, so some of the harms that were experienced by black Ashevilleans were the first ones in the state, and then those policies moved on outward from there.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much. Our next person is Eden Mosley. And you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Eden Mosley. I am one of the leaders of the citywide Asheville BSU. I'm also the leader of Carolina Days BSU. I'm also one of the people that helped start up this Asheville citywide BSU. Speaking on behalf of BSU, I would like to say that BSU would like to explore ways where the youth can facilitate a dialogue where we can support the work that you guys are doing as a commission. We loved for you guys to come, or at least some of you, to our meetings. We have one next Saturday from 1 to 3:30 p.m. at United Way. I think it is important to utilize and emphasize the youth's voice because we are the future. And so it'd be really great if you guys can come out. I'm pretty sure my contact information is on the paper, but it's with Carolina Day, Asheville High, SOSA, Christ School, and we facilitate and we talk about these conversations all the time. And so I think it'd be really important and need to be utilized for you guys to hear what the youth have to say, because we are the ones carrying out what is going to be here in the next couple of years. So I think it's important to hear what we have to say, because quite frankly, I think that right now our voices, I mean, everybody's voice is validated, but I feel like we are the most important right now. Thank you.
Eden, when is that? Saturday?
Next, oh, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you for the information.
Wow. Sorry about that.
Another person?
Yeah.
So we have one more person, Elizabeth Garland. Slate Mike.
Hello, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Garland. I have STM Multimedia and Slay the Mic, and I get to collaborate with amazing young people who are producers, directors, videographers, photographers, and is leading the charge and really providing their voice in the community, which I learned so much from. I do want to tell you we were at the Montfort and Stumptown reunion, and that was amazing because we were able to gather 9 interviews from community members that were attending. And so that allows us to continue to tell the story of reparations and how it's impacting the individuals in the Stumptown area. But it was such a wonderful idea to just kind of have that storytelling pocket happening while there was an event that was already there. So I would love to explore more ways in which, if you have an event that's happening, where we can set up our camera and bring our young people and just go ahead and schedule that, because we found that we can get multiple interviews at once. Another thing is we just really started gaining momentum in October, so you'll be seeing quite a bit of videos and photography coming out of our young people. And another amazing thing is when you're thinking about your IFAs in your meetings, each one of our young people, it's 7 of them, and each of them are going to be producers. So they have to pick which IFA that they're going to be focusing on to produce a video and tell the story. So I just want to put that in your mind whenever you're in your meetings, because we would love to come and capture the videos and then capture interviews as well. Another thing is, by next meeting, I'm hoping to have a form. So if you are interested and you want us to come out, that you have access, and you can also use that form to tell us when there might be an event or something that we can get involved and collaborate. Sorry, I'm like reading through my things. I also want to follow up on what E said. I am the advisor of the Asheville Area Black Student Union, and created in 2015, and super excited to see what these young people are doing. But they have quite a bit of information and knowledge, and I think E really came up with that idea of like the facilitation and having conversations, because I have seen that there are the same conversations happening in different rooms, whether it's with the elders or the young people. And so bringing everyone into the same room is something that I would really love to see. And I'm trying to think, the last thing is we will definitely have reports and touch points and highlights that show the work that we've been doing. I'm Elizabeth Garland. You'll hear more from me later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please make note that our next meeting for the commission will be December the 4th. It's December the 4th. Is our next meeting. If you review our objectives for this meeting, you will see that 3 of the 4 were more than adequately filled. Our 4th objective was partially filled, in that our resolutions will be submitted to the city and county. If there are items pending for the next meeting, please be sure to submit them. Let us know what's up. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
What's up?
Second.
What's up?
Please make sure you leave your name tags here. They will keep them for us because our name tags seem to get
Who
lost.
seconded?
Who second?
Second.
Thank you.
Babette.
Good evening, y'all.
Yeah, I second. D made the motion.
He made the motion, Babette. Babette second. Yes.
Babette made the second. Thank you, Babette. I'm sorry.
Please leave your name tags here, commission members. This is how we keep up with them and make sure they're here for the next meeting.
We leave them on the table.